This meeting is being recorded.
All right, hello everyone. This is January 11th, 2022. And the purpose of this recording that we're making now is to do a little bit of a documentation of the last couple of years of work on the Invest York Road project. We have been working on this in a pretty intentional way for a while, and we have only recently started really thoroughly documenting minutes for our meetings and doing some of that sort of stuff so that people can track the progress of the project and kind of see its trajectory. We had a long period of stuff that was not as thoroughly and explicitly documented, so we want to record this video to provide anyone who's interested in knowing more about the history or the path that this project has gone on some insight into that. So we've brought together this group of people who are most of the community members who have been sort of working on this in a focused way for different lengths of time. And we're gonna have a conversation talking through everything that's led up to this point, and so that people can have that point of reference if they'd like it. And then moving forward, we're documenting our whole process in other ways, keeping meeting minutes and having a lot of other stuff available for anyone who's interested in keeping track of the project. So we're just gonna go chronologically through kind of how the project has unfolded over the last couple of years and talk about some of the major landmarks that we've had along that journey, how they happened, how they came about, what our thinking was, and things of that nature. So it's going to be kind of an open, free-flowing discussion for everybody to participate in. So I would love to start by, my name's Andrew Connor, and I work for the Center for Community Ownership, and I'm actually not based in Baltimore. I've come in to help support the project, but everybody else here on the screen is a part of the York Road community. And so I would love to just kind of open the floor to anybody who wants to talk about where this idea came from and how it kind of originated before I got involved. So in the early stages, I'd love to hear from anyone who wants to kind of comment on that, about where this came from. Oh, Chris, your mic is really quiet or turned down. I think he said, Stephanie, I think that's you, if I read his lips correctly.
I was actually waiting to see if Chris wanted to jump in. So I'm happy to start. I became involved in the York Road Partnership a few years ago, and given my focus or interest in local business development, I joined the Business Engagement Committee. And after participating, I guess, in a series of meetings, it became clear to me, and the more I learned, it became clear to me the frustration that the community has felt over the years, just because of the inability to affect positive change commercially on the York Road corridor. And I also, deeply felt this as a community resident. There are just certain blocks that have vacancy, blight, and we're surrounded by residents who want something different. And my focus is community wealth building, which are strategies that aim to really create a more sustainable, equitable, resilient local economy by fostering out-of-the-box models like community ownership and worker ownership. And when I say my focus, it's always been a passion for me. And I lead a nonprofit initiative in Baltimore, Community Wealth Builders, that is working to sort of be a thought partner on those types of approaches. And one approach that I knew about from just sort of looking at other cities was East Portland's Community Investment Trust, which to me was such an amazing, powerful model in that it helped a community pool capital so that the community could take ownership of properties, redevelop them, and use that as a way to build personal family wealth and also create community wealth. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris in a sec. I'm going to segue to, I sort of introduced this idea to the Business Engagement Committee, which Chris co-leads. And, from there, it really, I think, bubbled up from community and from interest.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. So yeah, I'm co-lead of the Business Engagement Committee, and Stephanie actually introduced this. Some of the others joining are part of that. And that's what we got abreast of it. It was a couple of communications, a couple of things presenting information. But once we took time to look at it, it just made sense. How do we organically try to build wealth within those, especially those that may not have the same access? How do we build wealth with them? Increase education, and also enhance commitment and accountability to our commercial corridor. It was a win-win-win all around if we did that. And when it was presented, a lot of the people that caught it, like, that just makes sense. And I know Sadia just say that, that made sense. It wasn't really rocket science. So it had the major components as far as just educating a community that may not have the knowledge and education, to give them that opportunity, and then also give them a chance to invest and invest locally so they can actually see where their money's going, and also access and frequent those establishments to help them more and flourish, and then also to bring more accountability to the businesses as well as the community. So for me, when it was presented, of course, we have to work through logistics and understanding it. It just made sense to try to pursue and see how we could make it into a reality.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie and Chris. I'm interested to hear, Carol, Tyler, Sidi, and Barbara, you all kind of got involved at different steps of the process. And I'm just sort of curious at this point to hear if you all have anything else to say about that, the context out of which the project sort of arose, the community frustrations about what Stephanie identified, the commercial conditions on York Road, and just the things that, if you have anything to say about the community interest or the community sense or things that the community has been trying to do, or just sort of where you see the origins of this project kind of from your perspective.
Well, I'll just say that the frustrations are very much there. I think of the number of dollar stores that we have that people didn't want, but we didn't have any control over that. Different battles that we fought. So I learned about the project or the idea early on, but wasn't actually very involved until more recently. But the frustrations are definitely there.
I know for me, Chris kind of introduced me into this, and he told me about, what the plan was. And like he said, that was my exact words, is like, that just makes sense, It just makes sense. It's not rocket science. And for me, living in the community, I'm not originally from Baltimore, I'm from New Jersey. And I had this home that I live in now as an investment property. But that's a whole nother story. And I know for me, just going around Baltimore City, I just see so much potential. And I always sit there and wonder, like, I wonder what this place really looked like in its heyday, and why can't it be there again? Everybody talks about Baltimore. I hear it on TV all the time. We make movies, documentaries about them, everything. And Baltimore is so up there that it hurts my heart to see that it's just dilapidated, so much, In just the 10 years that I've been here now, I can see how the frustration, how it's fallen. So when there was an opportunity to get involved in this, I just jumped on it because, once again, it just made sense.
And I was part of the business engagement group that we've had going on. And so I heard about this, I think, pretty early on in the process. And the thing that excited me was being able to think about, we've talked about the need for revitalization on York Road, which is itself an exciting project. But to imagine a way of doing that the community is getting to decide what we need, and then having an avenue to actually bring it here. And I've heard others, in more recent times, talk about how this could be a way of, or the thing that's exciting to them is being able to revitalize our area without needing to worry so much about gentrification. And that this is a real community builder and a way to provide for ourselves, not just the wealth building of individual, homes and families, but also of, community infrastructure and the things that we need as a whole group.
And I guess that leaves me. I'm brand new to the party. I just moved to the area in about 2 years ago. So I bought a home not far from the area, but I do remember the uprising with Freddie Gray. And there was so much talk about, well, these are your neighborhoods, and the people were like, no, these are not our neighborhoods. The Rite Aid, that's not ours. And so this to me made so much sense to actually have the opportunity for people to really own their neighborhoods, to own their communities. And there's a different sense of something, versus own when you're renting or investing in something. One tends to take care of that. And one tends to have an interest and a real heart for that and say, hey, I'm going to be real considerate about what I'm doing here because this is my neighborhood. And so that's the thinking that for me made so much sense to bring a real sense, a true sense of ownership to a community that has never known that, who's been mostly orphaned or kind of bought and sold out and used as a commodity. So rather than you pimping me out, that's how I see it, I can own this myself.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate that. Stephanie, my first awareness of this project was you reaching out to me to see if I was interested in being involved. Do you want to talk about the kind of translation of all this energy and the kind of community interest into the actual push to let's do this, let's make something happen?
I can try, and other people feel free to come in. I think actually when we reached out to you, though, we weren't 100% sure that this was going to happen. Andrew's organization, I was on their email list, and they put out sort of a call for cities or neighborhoods that were interested in partnering on projects that involve community ownership. And it seemed like, a potential fit for what we were doing. So I reached out to him. And while that was happening, that was really when the Business Engagement Committee was digging deeper into this. We had 2 great interns from Loyola University that provided really great strategic sort of research into the initiative that gave our committee and group a lot more information about it, data. We also had another student that actually did a survey of businesses along the York Road corridor, just so we sort of see in our eyes what the uses are and the number of vacancies, but just actually to get hard data to collaborate what we sort of believed and thought. And I feel like, through my conversation with you, where you as an outsider, recognize the value in this, and as the committee was sort of generating more information and excitement, that's when we brought you in. But I think still now there's, interest, excitement, and, a core of us that is, sees this as a no-brainer, as City was sharing, it just makes so much sense, but there's still a lot of work to do to bring in more people to really say, yes, let's give this, 100% go.
And if I can echo that, it's again, I was blessed to you guys did a lot of the lead work, so it was more coming in, and we still had a lot of things to flesh out when it was presented. But it's a changing or evolving of a mentality, So again, those who see it right away, it's great. It's different phases. Those are kind of like, oh, just give me some more information, and it's those we have to really, pull and kind of educate just for them to understand what's going on. That's Stephanie. So we have a lot of room of growth. We already have a strong amount of growth, but a lot of room, even within the business engagement, which is good because we wanted to flesh it out. There was still growth of, okay, trying to understand, how would you do this? How would this work? Answers to questions we didn't have yet because we haven't done it. So it's like, getting questions of, well, how you're going to pay back this? It's like, well, we don't know. We have to see it. And for me, whether risky or not, it's worth the effort. I don't see us not succeeding, but I'm also okay. I'd rather do something and put my energy something that I know will make a difference and I see the benefit, versus not trying at all. And this group, I think, feels the same way. It's like, let's try it. And so far, stars have been aligning, and we've been getting things to fall into place. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
And one other thing to piggyback on what you said, because this is really aiming to be community-led, community-driven, community-focused, there are some things we won't know. This project relies on community decision-making. So, the direction, some of it we need to learn and grow as a group, but there's also so much that really can't be decided until the broader community is brought in, because that's really going to be the guiding entity for everything.
That's that's all great. And I looked back and I checked, and the first email that I received from Stephanie was on March 27th of 2019. So we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of that. And I'll just say, just from that kind of outside perspective, had been in a lot of conversations about community ownership in general, because that's our work at the Center for Community Ownership. And the issue of commercial real estate was coming up time and time again. That was really rising to the surface in a lot of different communities from a lot of different perspectives, including a lot of businesses struggling to not have affordable commercial real estate options, and the kind of blight issues that have been identified on York Road. And when Stephanie reached out, that was really, really early stage. The East Portland Community Investment Trust that she mentioned was really one of the few examples that we had to work from. Not a lot of models of people successfully doing that. So York Road Community has been a real leader, really kind of on the forefront of working on this. There, especially back then, not many other things to point to. So definitely very kind of inventive and creative and innovative work there. And welcome, Lisa, to the call.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. What's up?
So, so once I was very excited to get involved, and then, Stephanie and I and others sort of embarked on early months of a lot of research of what was available, and talking to our attorneys and talking to people who've been working on this realm, and really kind of putting together preliminary look at what this thing could be. And, pretty early on, let me know, Stephanie, if you have any other benchmarks. The first thing I was going to mention was
When you mentioned the attorneys, I think you need to go back. It's not that we have resources and really we're able to hire attorneys. Everything we've done has been grassroots and volunteer led, for all these early stages. So we actually applied to a program in Baltimore to get free attorney assistance, the Baltimore Brain Trust.
Yeah. But even before that, before we even got to that stage, we applied for this thing called Investment Connection that the Federal Reserve was putting on, and they do it sort of regionally. And it was in Baltimore, and we were selected as a project to present there. And basically, Investment Connection is a way for mostly a lot of banks and credit unions and financial institutions that have responsibilities under the Community Reinvestment Act to find projects that they could invest in and fund, and also other kind of foundations and funders there as well. So Stephanie and I did a presentation there at Investment Connection, and it went well, and we built some good relationships and made a lot of contacts and things like that. And some of which would bear fruit a little bit later. And then, as Stephanie mentioned, after that, we were selected, and that Investment Connection was the fall of 2019. And then in the summer of 2020 is when we were chosen to be a part of the cohort for the Baltimore Area Legal Trust, which was, as Stephanie mentioned, a local entity that connects projects like Invest York Road with pro bono legal support. And they helped us do some more analysis and look at our model structure options and legal issues that we were kind of talking about. And I'll also mention that at this stage of the process, we were referring to the project as the York Road Community Investment Fund. So that was sort of the first draft name. So if you ever come across that, that's where that is later kind of replaced with Invest York Road. And then I'll hand it back over to Stephanie. The bank funding that we received for the classes, that came out of a relationship that came from that Investment Connection event, I believe. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes and no. I believe that introduced the team of funders to the project, but being born and raised in Baltimore and before COVID, being out and about meeting with funders for everything, I had some knowledge and preliminary relationships with the group now that is really our core team of funders. And we really, I mean, I feel incredibly grateful to Fulton Bank, to Dion, because she was really one of the earliest champions that helped us really coalesce a group of funders, banking partners that would be excited about the financial education piece of the project.
And I just don't want to be remiss, and unfortunately I have the time. I'm trying to see if I can find the timeline. But again, go back to, there was a lot of work before the funding. The funding's only been within the last year, if I'm correct.
So the bank funding was the earliest funding, which came in more like spring 2020. So that's been around a little bit longer, the bank funding. Stephanie, do you want to say anything else about that, about the kind of process of working with the banks or getting them involved? I'd love to hear from the curriculum team about that kind of process of developing the educational classes. But did you want to say anything else about the kind of like the journey with the banks or those conversations or how that kind of unfolded with that funding process?
I mean, I think it's important to share sort of why we saw financial education as a key part of this. You know, we are going to be asking community members to take their hard-earned money and invest in something. So we wanted to ensure that everybody had sort of the full knowledge about the project and really about investing. And one, I think, interesting or important result that came out of East Portland was really the value of these classes. They offer sort of a similar model of the floor classes, and I'll let sort of our curriculum team dig deeper into those details, but we really saw that it was important to offer classes on saving, investment, debt, and credit. And they saw, you know, sort of regardless of whether or not people invested afterwards, just the really powerful effects on family income and family behavior, and also community connectiveness just from people participating in those classes. So really, as a first step, we felt it was critical, if we were going to move forward with this type of project, to put together and have some type of financial education class that could be part of it.
Great. Thanks for that preface. So I'd love to hear from Tyler, Sadie, and Lisa, who spearheaded the effort to put together the curriculum for those classes. Tell us what was sort of important about that journey for you all, kind of how it went, where things came from, what informed your process, and things like that.
Well, for me, I actually, before I even got involved in the curriculum portion here, I took the Portland course that they were offering, which was a huge insight, and I thought it was great. And I think Stephanie hit it on the nail on the head here, when it was just more than just, you know, hey, asking people to invest in something. It's making sure that people have the understanding and the knowledge of what they're doing, what they're getting themselves into. And, you know, just the thing that sometimes we feel like everyone should know this, when sometimes people just don't know it. And then it's also just the connection of the community. I felt so connected to those people that were in my classes that it was like, you know, to this day, I actually still talk to one of them, and it's like, hey, how's it going? You know, and it just brought everything together. It just felt like a community. It felt like, you know, we're all looking out for each other. And that was the biggest thing. And I know that's one of the key things that we're gonna need to be successful in this. So the education portion is great, but it's also just that need to connect with other people just like you. Sometimes you don't even know, you know, that somebody's doing the exact same thing you're doing or looking for the exact same thing you're looking for. And that whole piece just connected everything, which made it 10 times easier to get involved in this curriculum portion of it. that right there is like the key factor. Whether someone invests or not, it's something that they can take away from them for a long time. So, I was first person into it. Like, yeah, I wanted to get involved. So.
Hi, everybody. Two things. The first time I got involved in any of this, it was meeting Andrew and Stephanie the week Andrew came over for that federal funding pitch, I suppose, and he pitched the concept to us too. And I just remember thinking that, as much as though I want, public safety and violence to end, this seemed to be something that we could also be doing, and that would have long-term ramifications for where we're going. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm an educator, and I've been a teacher at home in Ireland for 12 years. So I just thought, putting classes together is completely in my wheelhouse. However, what I didn't bank on is the fact that the federal government is a great teacher, and it has hours of information about this. I'm talking about hours. Tyler and I decided that to get with probably 3 or 4 university credits by the time you were finished. What the federal government has put out as financial education. It's a great program, and it makes you very. So we took those, and we decided what we wanted to teach. And then we distilled all of that down to 4 areas, which we decided these are the areas that we want people to understand or know more about. And they were credit, say anything itself. And putting it together with Sadi and Tyler was a joy, I have to admit, and a challenge. Maybe Sadi, and I have to thank Tyler and Sadi because even I had to get dug out. Thank you, guys. So, Tyler, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. Like Lisa, I have some education experience, and so I was happy to jump on board and help shape some of these courses that we put together. And folks have already mentioned them, but we pulled from the FDIC and some of our experiences. Sadi was great in being able to talk about what it was like to go through some similar type education, to be able to identify, 4 major sections of what we saw in other educational spaces, as well as in our own experiences, is really important to be able to understand and know before we try and invest our own money. And folks have mentioned that being savings and credit and debt and how those function, and as well as investment opportunities and what that can look like. And so we worked hard collaboratively to put all 4 of these together. We brought them to the group who reviewed them. We went through and practiced facilitating them and put them in front of folks to give us feedback. We did some training for folks who applied to be community facilitators, so people who live around here who get paid to do a great job, really, of not only to Sadi's point, and it's a good reason, it's a good thing he made it because he's one of these folks, is not only to teach people what we put together, but also to connect with them as neighbors and to build community. It's another avenue for building community. One of the things that we did that Lisa was mentioning briefly to adjust the materials that we were working from is to make sure that we were really trying to set it in a Baltimore context and understand some of the history of our communities and the ways that wealth building has or hasn't occurred and the reasons for that specifically in Baltimore, so that we can give folks a sense of the place that they're living in, and to have a connection to that kind of history and hopefully a way to change that together.
Super. Thanks to all 3 of you there. And I just sort of want to echo something that Stephanie mentioned as well. When she said earlier, the support from the banks that funded this program has been really crucial in terms of sort of catalyzing a lot of action. You know, it's been a really a validating thing, in addition to just the sort of material support that they offered, which allowed us to put up a website and get a Zoom account and pay the facilitators and do outreach. It's also been something that has been a really good foundation from us to work from, to get other resources for the project. So you really can't emphasize enough how sort of valuable their participation in the project has been. And as ongoing partners coming, you know, they send people to the classes all the time and are really great in that way. Sadi, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on exactly what you said. You know, the partnership and, you know, coming to the classes and helping the facilitators answer some questions and things of that nature for the community. That's a huge impact, I think. You know, to have somebody there to take time out of their day to go ahead and answer some questions for our community is huge. You know, that shows a huge commitment, you know, and a belief in us and a belief in the community and a belief in this project, period. So, you know, they have been phenomenal, you know, when it comes to that. I appreciate them very much for that as one of the facilitators.
I want to add to that. A very, very long time ago in another life, I used to work for banks. And so my initial reaction to these 3 banks getting involved was very similar. At the beginning, I genuinely thought they were just in it for new customers. Now I realized no, they genuinely wanted to build up the community, build up the wealth. Yeah, of course. So, but they really have been and I think we're also impressing on them how committed we are to this project and how committed we are as a community to make this a reality, and that we need them as much as they need us. We need them, yes, but we're also worthwhile for them to invest in. So it's very mutual, and yeah, I'm very impressed with them. One is a local bank, and another one is a countrywide, like across the country bank. So, we
I think we might have lost her. Oh, okay. I think we got the gist of it, Lisa. We lost the last probably 10 seconds. So if there's if there was anything crucial in there, hop back on. But I think we got you.
No, just am I okay now? Am I okay now? Just to say, like, I'm very impressed with the banks. I'm very impressed with, like, they're impressed with us and they're, you know, encouraging us, but I'm very impressed with them too. One is a countrywide bank like M&T, you know, they don't, who are we to them? But they're really involved, so it's great. So thank you, banks. Over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. I'll say another great thing about that process of the class preparation, which kind of was happening in the second half of 2020, was that it also really consolidated. You know, we started this weekly meeting as basically a class planning meeting, which was the real focus for a while. And it brought a lot of these people who are on the screen now into the fold on a regular basis. And that was really what kind of formalized a little bit of our bigger group working on the project. And so that was a really great outcome too, because then once the classes got launched in early 2021, we just had this standing meeting, which is the place where we could kind of continue to conduct the sort of business we needed to move the project forward. So that was really great, and a really, you know, good outcome from that educational program planning process. So late 2020 and early 2021 as well, you know, we've submitted a lot of grant applications for funding kind of along the way, and I won't trouble anyone with all those details. They're available if people are interested. We can share all of our failed grant applications with anyone who's interested. But in early 2021 was a real turning point on that front, starting with a grant that we got from the Baltimore Community Foundation's Baltimore Progress Fund. So, you know, we were moving into this new phase where we were ready to, we've been doing like a second wave of research, reconfiguring the model, consulting with people, again, as Stephanie said, getting a lot of great pro bono support, and really kind of moving towards crystallizing things and actually taking action to sort of build concrete stuff. And we are ready to get some funding to really push that work forward. And starting with the Baltimore Progress Fund in early 2021, we started to assemble enough funding to get to a point where we were really confident moving stuff forward, knowing that we were going to have the resources to actually execute on the plan. And so over the course of 2021, we got grants from the Baltimore Progress Fund, as well as the ABLE Foundation and the Goldsecker Foundation. And that really provided us with most of the funding that we needed to be like, great, we've been working on this plan for the last couple of years. We kind of know where we're headed, and now we have everything we need to actually pay for the things we need to pay for. And so 2021 was a really big year in those on that front from the funding and resource perspective. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
And if I just can mention, and Stephanie and others, keep me honest, but that's the big thing, is that we had to adjust our logic because we didn't have the upfront funding altogether. We had to break it down as far as 3 different sections. And kind of, in order for us to move forward, we had to look at it: financial education, entity framework, as well as property analysis. So in order for us to get money, or incrementally, because we didn't get the bulk of money, we changed our logic, we adjusted it, or we marketed to at least get something going. We had no point that we said not getting the funding up front that we were going to stop. We just had to continue through. And with that, and that's why, reiterate with the Fulton Bank and the other banks, so they were a strong catalyst with that at least we got the funding to start the financial education piece, which helped generate and validate us moving, eventually getting the other pieces. But I do want to recognize the fact that, yeah, we had like, hey, let's give us this and we'll start it all at one time, but we weren't able to do that. We had to adjust it in different phases and still move forward. But at no time did we say we're not going to move forward with it.
Yeah, I'll even say, like, to your point, Chris, like the bigger picture thing maybe to observe there too is just, this has been a really iterative process. As we talked about at the beginning of this, there are not a ton of examples out there in the world. There are a few, and they're in different contexts. So we had, our core concept has stayed the same throughout, but this has been a constantly developing, growing, evolving project in terms of what exactly the plan is. And I think that we have finally reached the point where that's crystallized enough that we're confident moving forward, and that's timed up really well with the funding as it's come in. But we are still learning and growing. And even when we did this latest round of kind of research, there are a couple more of these that have come up around the country. So we had 2 or 3 additional models to kind of like look at and talk to people and reach out to people. So yeah, the shape of the project has definitely been sort of growing and changing along the way. Yeah, Lisa, go for it.
Andrew.
Yeah.
I think I love the word organic, because it's also to do with community-led. I know Stephanie is very strong on, and I think we all are, that's why we're in this, is that this has to be for the community, by the community, decided by us, community, and from the ground up. So our model hopefully will be for us in our area. I remember thinking, at one stage, somebody's asking us a lot of deep questions. And for us to say we don't know, I know in myself, I was able to say, and that's okay, we don't know, because we are really planning something very different and something new for the future. And so it has to be slow, but it also has to be very well thought through within the community, what we need and what we want. So I'm happy to kind of take our time and do it well. And if I don't know the answer, that's great. Let's find the answer. So I think there's a lot to be said for community led as well. Just to add it on to what you're just saying, Andrew.
Yeah, speaking of that, we're sort of up to the point of the timeline where Carol and Barbara kind of got more deeply involved. So I'm just sort of interested if Carol and Barbara, you have anything to say about you know, what the kind of catalyst for you to start coming to these meetings and start participating and putting so much great work into it. Anything that you all would like to add about how things sort of unfolding at that point of, you know, like early 2021, late 2021? Oh, Carol, you're muted.
I'm finding this history fascinating. I didn't really know that all this was happening for several years. I got involved because, as you know, I'm the treasurer. And so I figured, all right, I need to know what you're doing so that I can feel comfortable in authorizing payments. And so that was why I got involved. I had been interested in the concept from the very beginning, but it wasn't a high priority because there's so many other things happening. I agree with Lisa that yes, it's very important, but there are so many other things going on. But once I realized that we had money and that it was up to me to make sure that you got that money, then I figured I better be involved. And so it's been an interesting journey to see all the work that the rest of you have been putting in behind the scenes, and now finally be at the point where we have some resources and, you know, people are ready to move it to the next level. So it's very exciting.
Thanks, Carol.
Barbara?
For me, this is a personal story. Without going too deep, I was new to the area. I had lived in my house in Baltimore County for 20 years, and because of health issues, ended up having to sell it, and banks and whole bunch of horrible stuff, right? But I finally got another opportunity to buy a house. So I bought a house in this area. And for me, it's very important to not only educate people about finances and the things that can happen, it's also important to vision for what you want to happen and to become involved in that, to be a catalyst, like was said before, to have things happen intentionally rather than happening to you. So it takes people out of that victim mode that you, with planning and partnership and community, you can go a lot longer and farther than you do alone.
Thanks, Barbara. So this kind of brings us up to kind of the current era. We have been running the financial education classes since, someone correct me, June of 2021. Is that the first month? I'm pretty sure. And that's been ongoing. And we have also been constructing, as we have, as I said, sort of crystallized and solidified our plan for the next big phase of work. We basically have drafted a plan for how we expect this thing to unfold. And we've also been doing some planning for taking that plan to a much broader swath of the community and kind of reality checking it, ground testing it, making sure that it actually reflects the values and needs and desires of the community. You know, we're sort of, this is our rough draft and this is our best guess, and we've gotten consultation up to this point, but we want to really have this be as broad-based of a reflection of what the community wants as possible. So that's a big part of the next stage of work that we're doing, is taking some of the concrete dimensions of the plan and the process out to the community to get a deeper level of feedback and engagement. And then really moving forward to build up this entity that, you know, this project for the last couple of years has lived under the umbrella of the York Road Partnership, and it is, you know, on its path to being born as an independent entity that has its own kind of governance and board of directors and community accountability and so forth. And so we're working our way up to that stage and looking to really get things built out in a really concrete way in the next few months. So that's kind of the condition of where things are at now moving forward. And just kind of wondering if folks have any other kind of commentary on Anything else about this kind of current era or the next chapter that are really important to talk about or mention or make sure we get recorded here?
I just can't underscore how grateful I am for everyone in this group. This is like a community-led, community-driven project, and it's only as strong as sort of the time and energy that community members put into this. So, I mean, one, you know, we're talking about the connections made through the class. I mean, through participating in this project, I am learning, you know, meeting so many more neighbors, community members, and this for me has just been soul-filling, heart-filling to get to know people and to really, you know, the project is stronger as everyone shares their inputs and evolves it. So, you know, if you are watching this and when, you know, all our meetings are open and we really welcome more participation and really as much participation as you're able to give. So if you have the strength, the talent, or just want to connect, we can create an opportunity for you, with you. But I am really inspired just by the people that I've met through this, and am really excited about continuing the journey in 2022 with everyone here.
If I can real quick and think about the future, but no, I was going to say the same thing, similar as far as thanking everyone and definitely thanking everyone because I know I bugged a good amount of people to be here and they attended many, many meetings. Lisa, just like Sadi, but except Lisa started earlier, it was more like it's a no-brainer. And she was there, you know. Tyler, I think the world of you because yes, he jumped in and he took it head on. And Sadi, you guys get that. Barbara, her energy is just like going, just festering. And of course, we got our money woman who's signing off on the checks. So everybody, please make Carol happy. But no, seriously, it's been many, I mean, people can't understand meeting weekly and then even outside of meetings. So spending so much of your time, and time is the most precious thing that we have. I really can't think enough of that for everyone and what they've done and what they're continuing to do. It's just unimaginable. So thank you guys.
And I think one other money issue that we should just mention is that I think the original idea was that we would come up with the project, we would raise money, we would buy a building, renovate it, rent it, and then repeat, do it again. But now people have the idea that, well, maybe we can fundraise the money for the first purchase. So we've put in a grant proposal. We don't know if it's going to be funded, but there will be other opportunities to put in. And so if we're fortunate, and we probably will be because of the effort that these people have all been putting forth, we will get the money so that we can we have more flexibility in finding a building and jumping on it when the right building appears. And then we'll be able to buy it and then raise the money to replenish the fund and then repeat again. So it's very exciting. We're not sure where it's going to lead, but people are putting a lot of effort into a lot of very creative ideas. So just thought I'd throw that in.
Yep, and I'll say this real quick, and I'll try not to say anything else. But and Lisa kind of mentioned it as well as Stephanie. They want us to succeed. So the energies that we get, they want us to succeed. They want some individuals. They're looking to give more money. They're like, hey, and definitely the banks we're dealing with. They're like, hey guys, they're excited for us. And they're just looking for the opportunity to say, look, find me a justification to continue funding this, you know, and that's the excitement I get because, you know, you always hear the other portion of, you know, people not trying to assist. There's actually positive energy saying that, hey guys, I can't wait till you get this off the ground. I can't wait till this happen. Coming from the people. So that's definitely inspiring.
Can I also just put a shout out to Chris? Chris, you have been like the steady Eddie this is going to happen. Yeah, when there's flack coming or whatever it is, I'm going to do this. Yeah, that's great, but we're still going to do this. And I think, to me, about is big touching, because you know, there we were in 100 degrees of heat during the summer, doing handouts and talking our talk and walking our walk to people, and you are there and you're there, like giving up your time from work. I mean, you know, but if you're watching this, anyone else, and if you have, definitely, if you have a skill, even if willing to do a handout, please, we'd love to have. Also looking for people who are tired listening to the same old, and are saying, what can I do? Well, here, if you're a lawyer, we need you. If you're an accountant, you are, and maybe it's we're trying to make this video today is that you and because we are. So thanks, Chris. I love you too. And we'll see where we go with all this. Tyler, yo, City. Can I have a drink with an umbrella, City? I don't want this. Andrew, what do you got to say to that? All the way out in Missoula, Montana.
I will just, I'll close it out by just echoing all that appreciation. And the way that I'll put a fine point on it is, you know, we've had some grant applications where we've tried to kind of quantify the amount of in-kind contribution that we've had. And, you know, we put together these numbers for professional service providers and things like that. But then when it comes to like this group of people, it's just like, it's just sort of an infinite, it's kind of like an infinite amount of time. There's like no number that we can put on all the time that this group has spent and that other community members have spent. So just a ton of appreciation for that. We obviously wouldn't be moving it forward without all that. And yep, I will just echo that invitation. Anyone watching this video, this is your project too. You know, if you're in the community, this is yours. This is not ours and you become part of it. It's like people come to participate and they are as much owners of the project as anyone else is. So whether you think you have something to offer or not, if you want to be involved, come find us and we'd love to have you. So thanks to everyone. Any other closing words before we sign off? All right, and like I said, we're keeping documented minutes now for everything moving forward. So find those on the website, reach out to us if you have any questions, and thanks for your interest.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We could do another video in a year.
Love to.